It was late evening in the quiet town of Kog. Mist curled around the hills like ancient whispers. A figure stood motionless on the old stone bridge. Ravi, a teacher who once disappeared for a year without a trace. Now he had returned, but not alone. In his trembling hands was a diary. Its cover was torn, its pages soaked. And on the first line, written in trembling ink, "It happened yesterday, but it began last week." And truly, it started 10 years ago. Welcome, dear listeners, to another day at English Passage, where we don't just learn English, we live it. Here, you don't memorize grammar rules, you experience them. Through stories that grip your heart, characters who seem real, and mysteries that unravel through language, we help you learn the art of English fluency. Today is day 19 in our storytelling English journey. And today's tool, perhaps the most essential for all storytellers, is time expressions. Let's embark on this journey together. What exactly are time expressions? Why do they matter so much in the English language? Let's take a moment to visualize. Imagine you're sitting in a cinema. The lights dim. The film begins, but there's no sense of when the story takes place. You're confused. Is it happening now? In the past? Is the character speaking about today or last year? There's no anchor, no guidance, no direction. This is exactly what happens when we speak or write English without time expressions. Time expressions are anchors. They locate events in time. They organize our memories, ideas, and stories. Without them, everything seems floating and directionless. In English, especially in narrative speaking, time is structure. Time expressions are signals to your listener. They help them follow you as you move from one event to another. In this lesson, we will study in detail the following key expressions. Yesterday, last plus time period, ago. Let's explore each of them, not just as grammar terms, but as storytelling devices. Let's begin with the concept. A WH question is a type of question that asks for information, not for confirmation. That means, you are not expecting a yes or no. You are asking what? Where? When? Why? Who? How? Each of these question words serves a specific purpose. What asks about actions or things? Where asks about places? When asks about time? Why asks about reason? Who asks about people? Think of a story that begins with, "Yesterday, I saw something I will never forget." Immediately, the listener leans in. What was it? Where did it happen? The mind becomes alert. From a linguistic point of view, yesterday helps us set the emotional tone, define the beginning of a timeline, create contrast with earlier or later events. In Indian storytelling, we often hear phrases like, "Kal kya hua? Pata hai? Do you know what happened yesterday? Bas kal hi to dekha tha usse. I just saw her yesterday." These phrases are powerful because they suggest immediacy. They're like holding a photo that's still developing, clear, but not too far gone. So remember, yesterday is your tool for urgency and emotion. 2. Last week, last month, last year, framing events with precision. Now, we move to another essential time expression. Last plus time period. Last week. Last month. Last night. Last year. What do these have in common? They point to specific, finished time periods. They tell us, this event belongs to a past section of the calendar. It's done. It's over. Let's look at this structurally. When you say, "Last week, I visited Mumbai. Last year, I changed jobs," you are giving a firm structure to your statement. This is important because English, unlike some other languages, depends heavily on time indicators to define tense. In Hindi, you can say, "Main पिछले साल गया था." But in English, the sentence must be clear. The word last helps do that. From a storytelling perspective, using last week or last year is like turning the page of a diary and finding the exact date. You know where you are. You know when it happened. And here's the beautiful part. Using last adds a sense of closure. 3 ago, the distance in time. Let's now explore ago. This word is beautiful. It doesn't give a date. It gives a gap. 2 days ago. 5 months ago. 20 years ago. Ago tells us how long ago something happened, counting backward from now. This is important. It differs from last week or yesterday because it doesn't name a specific day. Instead, it marks a distance from the present. Example: 10 years ago, something terrible happened in the village of Kodaikanal. Just 5 minutes ago, he was here. These expressions build mystery, urgency, and distance depending on the number you use. Let's study this deeper. Ago is used with the past simple tense, just like yesterday and last week. But here's its unique power. It makes you calculate the passage of time. It makes the listener visualize. How long ago was that? What has changed since then? Storytellers love this tool. 30 years ago, my father vanished during a storm. Can you feel the weight of that line? It's not just grammar. It's history. It's memory. It's legacy. When you use ago, you're saying, this event is buried in time. But today, we will bring it back. That's powerful. Time expressions in the Indian context. Let's now use a story to bring everything together. Location: Shimla, nestled in the misty Himalayas where every winding road hides a secret. Amrita, a passionate archaeologist and granddaughter of the late Professor Rudra Sharma. Yesterday, Amrita received a letter wrapped in an old cloth. The sender was unknown, but the content was unmistakably personal. It had a map, an old photograph, and a single line: return to the cave. Last week, while exploring near Kufri, she had stumbled upon stone markings that matched sketches from her grandfather's old research. The symbols led her to believe that something ancient was buried beneath the hills. 10 years ago, her grandfather had vanished during a solo expedition in the same region. The authorities called it an accident, but Amrita never believed it. His last letter to the family mentioned a major discovery, something that would change the way history remembered the mountains. 50 years ago, during a fierce monsoon, the cave was sealed by a landslide. Locals called it cursed. Some said a temple was buried inside, others whispered of scrolls written in forgotten languages. But no wonder. Read to go near. Now, the path was open again. The landslide had shifted. The mouth of the cave yawned like a forgotten portal. Amrita stood before it, her torch flickering, heart pounding. Time had brought her here, not just the ticking of clocks, but echoes from generations past. Notice how each time expression weaves a dimension into the narrative. Yesterday sets the current mystery in motion, connecting us with the character's immediate thoughts. Last week brings us to the start of her adventure, where the signs first emerged. 10 years ago grounds the story in personal grief and unresolved questions. 50 years ago connects us to historical lore, collective memory, and generational silence. This is how great stories are built, layer by layer, not just by events, but by when those events occurred. Time becomes a character in the tale, a living force that guides the listener through memory, suspense, and revelation. Let's conclude the theory with a deeper language analysis. In English, verb tense is directly tied to time markers. Unlike many Indian languages where context may carry meaning, in English the listener depends on words like yesterday, ago, and last to decipher the timeline. Time expressions help learners in speaking clearly, writing stories or diary entries, describing personal experiences, giving reports or accounts. You can practice them by listening to real conversations, reading English storybooks, writing your own story each day using one-time expression. Dear viewers of English Passage, thank you for walking this long journey with me today. Remember, every time you listen, your ears are training your mind. You're not just studying, you're absorbing. That's the power of learning English through stories. Today, you learned that time expressions are not just about grammar, they're the backbone of storytelling. They add emotion, drama, structure, and connection. Don't rush to memorize them, live them. Reflect on what happened yesterday. Share a memory from last week. Tell someone about an event that happened 10 years ago. Speak them. Feel them. Own them. If you enjoyed this journey, please like, comment, and subscribe to English Passage. And remember, this is not just English. This is your story. And stories are the most powerful teachers of all. We'll meet again tomorrow. Until then, stay curious, keep listening, and let every word bring you closer to fluency. Good night from English Passage. Jai Hind. Vande Matram.